Welcome back, Alpha Hunters. Okay, so we are going to do another Your Stock, My Plan this week. And this stock that we're going to do it on is Sofi. It was recommended to me by Diet Cola here. And so we're going to take a look at Sofi. So when we start out by looking at a stock, right, we want to get a clear understanding. Is it going with the market? Is it deviating from the market? So we do want to start out by looking real quick, kind of really what it's doing recently. So Sofi, as we can see, we have pretty much a clear downtrend for the previous 3-4 months, ever since mid-November, where it hit a high, and it's just been selling down really ever since. Okay, and even then, it is currently at its 52-week low, which is around 8 points right now. And the high had hit, not the all-time high on the stock, but the mid-November high, it hit around 24.75 points or so. We want to compare that to the SPY. So let's look at the SPY real quick. And what we'll see is, well, Sofi has been selling down ever since about this point, since mid-November, which the market and the SPY actually went and made a new all-time high at the beginning of January and has then started pulling down. Sofi just looks a little bit more bearish on its recent charting picture, and even here recently in the past week, it's just really selling down kind of hard with Friday and today, Monday. So we will take that into consideration as we try to come up with a profitable, money-making, cash-making plan, because we are here to make money and bring in as much cash as possible so we can use that to then turn around and make more money. So let's go ahead and look at a longer term time picture so we get an idea. Okay, so it did IPO. I do remember this. It IPO'd back in November of 2020. It really has just kind of went up and it had like this triple top action here we see over a course of about a year, with the all-time high being back in February of 2021. But ever since the beginning of this year, really has broken down this triple top neck area that we see here. Put a line on the screen for you. We did have the all-time low actually is today. So this top line, this is the neckline of this triple top. And then this line is the IPO low, pretty much that it had. So we can see that we did break down on both of those, and we have gone and made an all-time low today on Sofi. Okay, so that's not a problem. Now, the reason why I kind of took about an extra week before I covered Sofi is I really wanted to see what it did before I talked about it. I did look at it last week just to get an idea of my head of potentially what we could do with this. So there's not much I'm going to recommend here. There's going to be very limited action. I'm not going to recommend getting into any kind of bearish vertical positions. What I'm going to recommend is have a longer time frame picture for Sofi and the stock. This is something that you are probably not going to want to play with options too much. If you are going to play this with options, you're going to want to play this with cash secured puts, and we'll go look at some potential cash secured puts and the options chain for Sofi to maybe look and see how we can position around that. But you are going to want to play this as more of an investment. Okay, I get it. The channel's options trading, but you want to have definitely a longer term picture here. Okay, if you like Sofi, if you like the company, you like their products, you maybe are a customer of their products, you've used their products, you know people who use their products. I have used their products and they are great. I would recommend knowing what you're getting into with the company before delving into a stock like this, okay? The big reason why they are getting hammered so much for the past several months has been the case for a lot of companies like this, the high flying growth type companies that have been around for the past probably half decade to decade. A lot of those companies, they don't have positive earnings, and that is the same thing here with Sofi. They have negative earnings. I know that might be a little bit small on the screen, but they have negative 0.15 earnings. It is trending in the right direction. And here on TradingView, you can click the More Sofi Financials, and we can look at the earnings, which is right here. And we see it's negative. It's just all negative. They actually don't have positive earnings at all. And they have an estimated for next quarter for negative, still more negative earnings. But they are trending in the right direction. They are getting close to profitability or positive earnings. So that is something that is going to probably look to start taking shape, as a lot of these companies are going to start flipping the switch from growth and trying to get as much market share as possible to flipping the switch to profitability and positive earnings, right? But they need to get to positive earnings. I do think they will do it. The smart team there that runs SoFi, they need to do that for the stock to probably really start to turn around. So with all that being said, stick to a longer term picture on SoFi. And if you really don't want to touch SoFi until they've had that kind of a turnaround, I can spot a very clear area that if they get above this, you are going to want to start to be in. And that is this area right here. This about 1330 area, we'll just call it 1350, 1360 area. And it's basically right below that neckline. So actually we can just go ahead and say that neckline area from that triple top, we can just go ahead and say if it gets above probably that 14 point area, that would be an okay area to start getting back into the long side. Now you might miss it, you know, some of the better buying opportunities, but if you really want nothing to do with SoFi below that point level, I get it. I totally understand. You know, you don't want to mess with it until they turn it around. And another thing to note is it's down at these low levels. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while for it to kind of turn around and start to go back positive, go back to the upside. So you might be in this for a little bit of a longer term. Okay, definitely. Whether you're trying to be like a short or medium term trader, you know, have a longer term picture with this kind of stock and this kind of company. Okay. So what I would highly recommend potentially doing is potentially buying shares. Definitely do not go all in. They really need to get to positive earnings. Once they get to positive earnings, then you'll probably start to see the stock turn around, or at least stop falling. And that'll be the first step, right? The first step is stopping the stock from falling. The next step after that will be getting the stock price appreciation. So buying shares here, not going to be a bad plan, especially now, because currently we are below the IPO, right? The IPO was around that 10 point area. We're currently around 8 point area. So if you don't want to be buying shares, or, you know, you have a little bit more capital, another great way to get into stocks like this, I'm not really too worried about SoFi potentially going bankrupt or anything like that, or it going to zero. This is another way you could play it. You could play it with cash secured puts, or you could do the wheel strategy under 10 points, under this 10 point level. Once it gets above 10 points, I do think that'll probably be the turnaround, but you could do cash secured puts. Okay, so let's go look at some options for SoFi. I want you to leave a stock in the comments below, and I'll come up with a trading plan. Okay, so looking at the option chain for SoFi. Now the cool thing about SoFi is it does have weekly options. So that is very nice. So going out for 6 weeks, it does have weekly options. So what you could do is just open up an options chain and see what it's paying at a strike level for the puts, right? For the put side. So we got the $7.50 strike for March 25th, and that's paying 30 cents. So you could sell these options at the $7.50 strike for 30 cents. So if the stock wound up dropping below $7.50, you would get exercised and put shares, but your net cost into owning SoFi would be $7.20. Okay? So, with that being said, what you need to do is realize that you need to figure out which premium, along with the strike, you want to own the shares. Okay? I do think today or very soon, if there's something that you want to look at, the implied volatility is pretty high in SoFi. So that would be something that I would definitely look to do. But what you need to do is just figure out which strike you want to do, and you can just look at some of these different expirations. So this is April 1st. The 750 strike is paying about 42 cents. If we go out to April 8th, the 750 strike is paying 50 cents. Now, I'm a big fan of doing as short term as possible, right? Because if I sell the 750 strike out 2 weeks, I can get 30 cents. And if then I turn that around and sell 2 weeks out from then, which would be April 8th, I could sell another potentially I could sell another 30 cents at the 750 strike. I would be able to collect 60 cents in total rather than the April 8th that's out 4 weeks, which is only collecting 50 cents. Okay, so that's what's kind of cool about the weekly options. It does allow you to increase your capital income a little bit at a faster rate, but it's not for everybody, and I get that. It just kind of depends on how much time you have to manage things and things like that. But that is what I would kind of recommend for SoFi, is either just buying the stock outright, just start nibbling at it, and then once it breaks to the $10 to the upside, I would put whatever allocation you would like to go into it. And the other thing is probably just doing cash secured puts or doing the wheel type strategy. And that's another thing, is if you did get assigned shares, maybe at that 750 strike. So let's say it dropped to 740 by March 25th and you got assigned shares. Well, you just turn that around and you just sell covered calls, right? You just sell covered calls on top of it, to bring in more income. Now, and that's how you start to increase your cash pile. Because once you increase your cash pile, then you can turn that around and use that for more investments. You really want to start to focus on strategies where you can increase your cash pile to compound that into more positions to make more cash. Okay, but that is what I would do. I would do something like the wheel or cash secured puts to start off, and then sell covered calls if you did get assigned shares. But I would just be looking to build up a cash pile that will allow you to increase potentially owning more shares later. And I just think it's down in an area to where you're definitely wanting to start nibbling at it. It's hard to say when the bottom is. I don't know when the bottom is going to be, but starting to get into buying shares or doing cash secured puts makes a lot of sense, especially at these levels. It's very hard to say, oh, watch out for this level or watch out for this level, just because it's at an all-time low. Don't know how low it goes. On a longer term picture perspective, SoFi is probably going to start to be a good pickup. It's going to be real ugly for a while, as the chart looks really bad, and they just need to get to positive earnings. I hope this clarified some things. Just because you're looking at a stock doesn't mean you have to come up with an actionable trading plan. You just kind of come up with a plan to say, okay, I'm going to watch this level. Once it gets to this level, I want to get in. That would be a 14-point level currently. I would say if it gets above that, look for the pullback into 14-point level, and then look for that continuation higher. But that might be, maybe months to years down the line. But if you're wanting to start building up a portfolio position in SoFi, I would definitely say to go ahead and start doing it. Nibble on some shares here and there as you get some extra income or extra disposable cash. SoFi might not be a bad spot to maybe put it for the longer term, but I would keep it small. I would not go all in on SoFi till it starts to have positive earnings and the stock pattern starts to turn. Okay, then you can maybe look to increase your position, but doing cash secured puts and stuff like that on SoFi would be a great idea at these levels. Let me know if you liked this breakdown. Hit the like button, and I'll continue to try to find some things that we can make money on that are a little bit more predictable. This one just didn't seem as predictable as some other ones that we've kind of covered on the channel, but I'll do my best. It's just right now in the marketplace, it's more about protecting your long-term capital. That is one of those things that I'm really kind of cautious about with SoFi, as the chart pattern just doesn't look good, but it's at a price level area that is attractive to start buying and start nibbling on some long-term value. Okay. Alrighty. Take care, Alpha Hunters.